Hello, found footage fans, and welcome to We Found a Tape.
Tape Talks.
Welcome to Tape Talks, a special new series from We Found a Tape. Here we sit down with directors, filmmakers and cinematographers to deep dive into the creative process behind found footage filmmaking, from writing and shooting to the journey of bringing these unique stories to life.
Welcome everyone to a brand new episode of Tape Talks here, presented by We Found a Tape. Today we're joined by a couple of filmmakers who have an upcoming found footage movie that we are really excited about called the Transylvania Tapes, which the trailer is out now if you want to check it out. We're joined today by Josephina and Brad Sykes. Thank you very much for joining us today, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, this was a pleasure. I was just saying just before that I'd heard about this project through the found footage fans group on Facebook, which is a large group of just found footage lovers just like us, and I was really excited to see. It's always great to find independent found footage, and you also had mentioned this was your first time making a found footage movie. What was the process like for creating that in terms of writing and shooting, and really the differences between that and a regular narrative film?
Well, I mean, the script, to talk about the script, should I go with this one?
Let's go.
Just to talk about the script, the first draft of this was actually written 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago. It was Josephine wrote it. We always wanted to make a horror movie in Romania.
I am from Romania.
She's
Let's
from
start
Romania.
with that.
Yeah.
And that's where we met on a movie set that, was shot in Romania. I was a film student and Brad was coming there to work on the movie.
Right.
So after we got married, I moved here. We always wanted to make a movie in Romania, and we started with this vampire script that I wrote, and it was anti-cliche, and we were trying to raise a lot of money, and that didn't happen. Let's give them the short version.
Yeah, that was the first draft of it, the first version. And then in 2011, I still wanted to make this movie, and I kept trying, sometimes as a filmmaker, you keep trying to find ways to make that movie, downsize it or change whatever. And in 2011, I actually came up with the idea of, what if we turn this like regular horror feature into a found footage movie? And that's when the title Transylvania Tapes came up. I thought it was catchy, and obviously we were going to be filming in Transylvania. And so then you wrote that version.
I wrote that version. It was totally different than what we have now. And I can't even remember much. It was more like a rural type of situation, more folklore, more something with a computer. We did not reread the scripts before I did the new one.
It might have been folk horror.
Yeah, it might have been.
before that was a thing, or before that was recognized. But yeah, that was the second version.
Not so much.
No, it was more on the rural, like in a village. And
but we put them in the drawer, and that's where they still are.
Yeah, that's where they stayed. And then, one of the sort of inciting incidents, I guess you could say, for us really saying, let's make this movie, let's really go out and make it, was the director of the film that we met on, Jeff Burr, you might know him from, he's done a lot of horror movies like Leatherface, he did Chainsaw 3, he did Stepfather 2, Pumpkinhead 2. He's done a lot of sequels, a lot of other original horror movies. Great guy. He was my mentor. And that's how we met, was on the film he directed. He passed away in 2023. And he was a big supporter of independent film in general, and always encouraging people to go make their movie, whatever that movie was that they really were passionate about. And so after that happened, not long after that, it was in 2024, I just started thinking, we really need to make this movie. We need to make it no matter what, with whatever we can pull together, and stop talking about it and writing different versions. Let's just make it. And it was definitely going to be a found footage movie, and it was still going to be called Transylvania Tapes. And if anything, I kind of wanted to embrace found footage even more than the other version had, because it's, the genre has changed. The found footage genre has changed and gone through a lot of, permutations and stuff.
We changed too, as people, as filmmakers.
Right.
So you don't want to do the same thing over and over again. That's exactly what we don't want to do. We always want to try something new and different for us.
Yeah. I made 30 features, most of them horror. since the 90s, and I've never done a found footage. As long as you just want to do something different too. I don't know if I would have wanted to do one in the United States. I kind of have to go to another country to make it. That was like, it has to be more of a challenge. Make it harder on yourself and everyone else around you. So that was, you know, I proposed that to her. We were already planning to go to Romania in it was April. It was like around this time a year ago.
We shot that movie. We
shot
wrapped
it
there.
Yeah, that's where we did it. And so in 2024, kind of toward middle of the year, end of the year, you know, I was like, we're already going there. Let's stay there longer. What do you think about making a movie and make that movie that we wanted to make? So that's kind of how it all started. And then that script, that version, we wrote the storyline together, literally side by side at the computer. And then I went off and wrote the draft. I wrote the actual script, and then she polished it for like all the Romanian cultural things, because there's a lot
characters and everything else. The Romanian characters.
Yeah. So that's kind of how it. You asked that question. You said I'm free to ramble.
Story behind it.
But that is the story. I mean, not every movie. You know, some movies you write in the same year you make them. You know, some years you make them and then they don't come out for 25 years. I've had all these things happen. But this one was a case of wrote it in 2005, made it in 2025.
But we wanted to write something fresh, forget about everything else.
We didn't even look at those drafts.
Well, I just brought some ideas, you know, in this one that I always said in the previous ones, but it's just like things that stayed with me and ideas that I always wanted to, you know, put out there about the history of the country, or, you know, things like that, and about the main character that, you know, it's always been a woman.
Yeah, it's always a young woman
going back to find her family.
Kind of who's like kind of like a Romanian but grew up in the U.S., going back to her home, you know, her birth country, to find out specifically what happened to her mother, but also like to find out about herself. And that's always been the through line with all the versions. That's always stuck with every version. You know, it's funny now that we've made the movie. I mean, I can't imagine this movie not being a found footage movie. Like, I feel like it wouldn't be as direct. This is something we can talk about later on, but I've been talking to different people lately about this kind of thing, and how one of the things about found footage is kind of unique is the directness, the direct connection that the audience gets with the characters that you don't get in a regular narrative movie.
And we needed that. We needed that for the character, for her story.
Yeah, because you stay with her, you're always with her.
So you get to meet her immediately, and then you see the changes, how she changes.
Yeah.
And this way of, you know, showing her so direct, it really
it helps. It really does. It really works for it. So yeah, that's I guess that answers at least that's the script part of your question.
Hell yeah.
There's a lot of things they can say about the production, but that was the genesis of it as a script. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I love that. It's very much writing about what you know, and that's really where your strengths come into play. Especially in the I mean, as someone who I am an immigrant from Scotland who live in Canada, so I mean I have a sort of parallel there. So I would know a lot more about, you know, Scottish folklore and things like that. So I completely understand. That's great. It's a great asset to have, especially when there is so much found footage, especially nowadays, that is set in like predominantly in North America, or Canada. It definitely makes it stand out in terms of the setting. The setting's completely different. You don't typically see that. There's a lot of some of my favorite found footage movies are set in like Eastern Europe, like one of them in particular is Jerusalem. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but it was set in Jerusalem, and they completely filmed it there, guerrilla style. It was gnarly. But it's so different. The landscape is different. The surroundings are different. The buildings, the architecture, the history, the people around, the fashion, even. And I totally get that. That's awesome.
We always try to, like, you know, with every movie we do, whatever movie it is, we always think, well, what's unique about this movie? Like, how's this? Because there's so many more horror. I mean, when I started directing, which is going back to the late 90s professionally, it was just like late 90s, there weren't a lot of horror movies out. There were a few. You had your Scream and you had your, you know, Blair Witch, and without going down that rabbit hole, but you had a few, you know, but there weren't a lot. And now there's so many more. So you've got to really think, like, what's unique about this film? What's going to make this movie stand out within its subgenre? I forget about the genre at large, which is important too, but that's just the subgenre, because now that there's so many subgenres too, you know, people making movies.
Yeah.
So we always felt like this is one of the reasons why we felt this movie would stand out. And what you just said about bringing people into, bringing the audience into another culture and another land and showing them sights that they can't see otherwise. I mean, I'd been, aside from Josephine growing, obviously being Romanian, growing up there and spending, 20 plus years of your life there before you moved here. I wanted to show people, I've been back there like 8 times. And we took side trips. We've been to Transylvania. We've been to the city that you see in the movie, the medieval town.
Inspired us.
In fact, we were there in 2023, and that was a direct inspiration too, because it was such a cool place. And I was like, I mean, I don't think I actually said it then, like, let's make a movie here, but I was probably, part of me, you can never turn that part off, after a while. And I was like, this is just a really cool, this is incredible visual landscape, and not a lot of people there either. It's relatively,
except when we shot it. But anyways,
well, still,
the thing is, lately we have been trying to make more personal movies, because I think people want to relate to stories. So I've done that a bit previously with our horror anthologies more, but that was more about filmmaking. Now we wanted to bring other kind of personal stories there, like you were mentioning the idea of an immigrant, of a person who moves to another country. Well, that's something I was trying to address with this movie, how it is to live between two cultures. Who are you? You've been living, you're from somewhere else, you've been living for, let's say, a long time in another country. Who are you right now? Are you a person who, are you from your original country? It's like things that we struggle with, and some people do, and I kind of knew that it's not just me struggling with that, obviously, and I wanted people to relate to that. And also people nowadays also want to go back and look for their origins and who they are also. So we wanted to comment on that a bit, and also take people on a journey. This is Mara's story, but it's her journey, and show different parts of the world that otherwise maybe you wouldn't
even things that you wouldn't see, like even in other films that were made in Romania, especially Bucharest, the capital. We wanted to show things because of Josephine's, obviously, her background. We wanted to show details and places that you would not see in any other film, period. I mean, I don't care what movie it is, what horror movie, or even horror or non-horror, you just wouldn't see it. We wanted to show that stuff. We really wanted to kind of get all that on camera. And, that's why the movie's kind of structured like that, where you kind of spend the first half roughly in Bucharest, and then you take the train ride to Sighișoara and in Transylvania. And I wanted people to really feel that they're on that trip, they're seeing those details, they're kind of experiencing it along with her, so that you feel the change between the two places too, because that's like a huge thing.
Once again, the found
footage helped us a lot. It helped us in actually a lot of areas, and we can talk about it later, but there are a lot of areas of actually the shoot and the editing where there was a looseness to it, and a flexibility that would come up sometimes that was different than if you made a regular narrative horror film, where you have to stick to a script, stick to a certain pacing and shots and so on. There were things we were able to do that kind of get outside of the box because of the found footage. So that was really cool. That was a nice surprise on some level.
Because you could improvise more sometimes, even with the actor, or you see something cool, you're like, let's just get this, and you will deal with it later.
And we did.
Usually we don't do that much because everything is so scripted. Look, this was scripted and we did shoot everything, but at least you could do extra
within
things.
within that framework. But I was talking to somebody else about this the other day, and you guys may have heard this from other filmmakers too, but in scripting found footage, there are no easy exits or outs for you either as a writer. Because you can't just write it and then you'll figure out the angles and you'll figure out the beats and you'll do something. You can't do that. You have to know exactly where the camera's going to be the whole time, where the shot's going to start, and what's going to happen within the frame. And the way we handled this movie anyway, I thought it was the right way to handle it, was do a lot of long takes, a lot of long extended takes to preserve the realism, which was harder to do for us, of course, in public spaces and so on, but we did it. But that's kind of interesting. As a writer, it's very different than any other script, where you have it in your mind, but with this one, it was like, no, it's on your mind. It's got to be on the page.
That's how it's gonna be.
Got to be like, those beats have got to be worked out, and you got to know where everything's going to happen. So that was kind of challenging and different. Was fine with me. But then, like she just said, within that, at the same time, while we're making the movie, because of the way this film is structured, we were still able to integrate different elements that kind of would come to us, whether they were people or places or things that we kind of just thought were
You get
cool
inspired and think that'd be cool,
yeah,
you know.
because you want it to feel real. Realism is the ultimate goal, right? I mean, that's the most important goal, is realism and spontaneity, and thankfully our actress helped out a lot with that too. But just where we filmed and you know, having the flexibility to embrace certain things that came up, that was something we were able to do on this one that we might not have been able to do on another regular movie.
Right. Yeah. That's
You know,
definitely an asset for found footage, I would say.
mm-hmm.
And that, excuse me, sorry. That was one of the things that I enjoyed about this film, was that being that there was so much story going on with her looking for her mother, where she came from, how long ago she immigrated over, things like that. It really puts you on the journey with her. Also, sorry, my throat's kind of, but also, like, in some cases, you almost felt like you were the cameraman looking on along the ride with her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So those were some of the things that I enjoyed from it.
Oh, good.
I know you mentioned that some of the challenges, of filming on location, with the people and things like that. Were there any other challenges that you encountered along the way, filming in different parts of Romania, as far as like maybe permits or anything like that?
Well, we never had permits. I mean, we never had permits. This was a really bare bone. I mean, I literally went back to like my early years, let's call it, where I was, in high school or college, and I was shooting on they talk about we found a tape. Well, I was shooting on tape, high 8 tapes, as a matter of fact. And, I would just go with my friends and shoot, well, sometimes features without in major cities like Boston, places like that, and just shoot these movies, action movies with, all kinds of crazy stuff. And I never had permits for any of that, and I shot them myself. And then, later on, after I moved to LA, I started having DPs and other things and crew and all that. This was kind of like going back to the early years. I'm like, let's make this while I still can.
Right.
You're still in good shape.
Well, I can physically do
we
it.
can run if something happens.
Yeah. But we knew going in this was going to be like that. It was going to be handled like almost like a student shoot, and with a few friends, there that helped out.
I have some friends who, obviously, I went to film school there. I worked there before leaving in film industry. And, I was able to get some friends who have production companies to help us out here and there. But to get permits, it's such a bureaucracy and so expensive that I felt like with all the locations we had, that's never going to happen. So I better plus we're not going to use a tripod. That's the trouble when you use a tripod, because we're not going to use a tripod. The original version was, if somebody would approach me, I would say, this is a travel vlog. But it didn't happen a lot. I have to say, I was prepared to, bribe people, get into with people, plead, do whatever, necessary so we can shoot whatever. But that didn't happen. I remember I was shooting at some stairs, like the only stairs, probably one of the fewest in Bucharest. And when we were there 2 years ago, it was nice, quiet spot. Now it's like, of course, nearby they're renovating a house. So, they were like, it was really noisy. But you know what? The workers were very cool. They're like, shall we stop right now? We can take our lunch break. I'm like, yes, please. And, I'll give you some money, get yourself some coffee, and thank you so much. So it was more like that if it was any kind of interaction. We had to be very patient and wait for tourists. Usually that's kind of why I planned it before Easter. It's usually the city used to be empty when we're going there on vacation before Easter. Well, this time around that did not happen, obviously, because we're shooting, right? So it's like every Italian, American, British tourist possible, Japanese are there. So you just kind of almost had to be patient and wait for them to pass by and do maybe
I did
sometimes
more takes.
15 takes.
I did more takes on this than any movie I've ever directed. There were definitely times where I did 15 takes of just a single shot of her, like, say, approaching an old church and having a few lines, and but I was just like, well, as long as everyone else, she knew her lines, she was very good, and everybody, it was just about being patient, waiting things out. Some of the stuff we did at night in Old Town, some of those shots, those took a while to do too.
You had some crazy drunk people yelling at us sometimes. That can happen in an alley. That was probably the worst thing that happened. And some kind of like a Uber driver was kind of angry at us because Brett was shooting with the windows down.
They didn't like us filming in their cars.
Like that. That was kind of one of the worst things I can say. When we're in Sigishwara shooting around that abandoned house, a neighbor came out. I'm like, he's surely gonna kick me out right now. But then he's like, no, I can get the owner to come and open the place for you. We didn't need that, but that was very nice of him to offer that. Also, it was a bed and breakfast nearby, and also the owner came out and was wondering what we're doing. I did a version with a vlog, travel vlog, and he's like, oh, come on over. And I'm like, come on over where? I got Brett and the actress to come with me, see what happens. And the guy had a cellar and he's making his own plum brandy. And he actually wins medals for that. I didn't know there are competitions for this kind of thing. And all of a sudden, he just wanted to give us a tour of the place. So all of a sudden, he brings this tray with like shots with plum cherry. No, cherry brandy kind of thing in it.
Yeah.
It was 10 in the morning.
Oh,
We
wow.
don't drink and work, but when in Romania, you have to do that. Otherwise, people are very hospitable and they just, you have to do that. So basically, we did have to drink alcohol at 10 a.m.
Yeah, that was their big
It
imposition.
was the
on us.
best cherry brandy
It
I've
really
ever
was.
had.
It was. It should be.
So the medals were for real.
I'll give it an award.
And also it
Oh,
was
yeah.
because he was telling us the story of his place, and he had kind of like a similar story with our character. He recovered it from the communists. It was his family property and renovated it during the pandemic. Had a cool fresca that they found over there from the 1300. He showed it to us. So just a nice, cool guy.
Yeah.
So that was like,
Yeah, people were either if they approached us at all, they were trying to help us with something,
right.
or they just ignored us. Like they just figured we're just shooting, because people are just shooting more videos nowadays. You know what I mean? It's you got a little camera and a girl, a pretty girl talking, and they just figured it's probably some kind of a travel. But there's tons of ghost hunter videos and things like that. I looked into this
And
stuff.
everybody does so
shooting.
many travel
Yeah,
vlogs
everything
that-
in Romania and wherever and everywhere. So although I didn't see anyone else doing one while we were there, which was fine with me. I didn't have a competing crew going on, but yeah, we really didn't have that problem. And you were sure we would have problems, because I think Romania has become a kinder, gentler place.
It used to be a bit more,
rougher. Well, rougher. People's attitudes and behavior were frankly worse. I'm talking about shopkeepers, more like in general, and going out to like do things. Not so much like the people you like, your family and stuff like that, but more like people you deal with in just everyday transactions.
And
people
it's way better now. People are
way better,
nicer. So we didn't have as many problems as I thought we would.
We really didn't. And well, like I said, they just didn't know. Like the hotel that we stayed in, which is obviously the hotel you see in the movie, they had no idea we're making a movie, and I don't think they could have cared less. We were running through their lobby sometimes with a camera out, filming stuff.
We shot in the restaurant. Nobody cared.
So it was. We were very fortunate from that standpoint. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, we were already going into it thinking, what are the plan Bs going to be? What are the alternates going to be if we get kicked out of this location or that location or whatever? But that didn't happen. That really didn't happen. I mean, we didn't scrap anything. We added a few things on because we saw stuff when we were scouting that looked cool and we wanted to incorporate into the film.
We got inspired, frankly. So we're
but we didn't. There were very, very few things that if we changed anything, it was because of the traffic noise or something like that.
Yeah, the location, it wasn't there.
Yeah.
They were renovating it, so we had to find something real quick, but not because of somebody.
But you got to get on. You got to get on. Things change so fast nowadays. I mean, like, for example, we wanted to have there's a scene where she looks at the bullet holes that are like real bullet holes that are left over from the revolution in the side of a building downtown. And Josephina originally had an idea where we're going to go to film that scene. And when we got there, do we know beforehand?
Kind of before.
A bit beforehand, we found out that this is actually not going to work because they're renovating the building, getting rid of the bullet holes. I would say whitewashing, but they're just renovating it. We couldn't. So she found another place. Thankfully, that actually I think was better because the bullet holes were more like eye level. They weren't, as high up. So that she could really engage with it and put her finger there around the surface of the bullet hole. I mean, and that was educational for me too, because I had heard these stories of the revolution for a long time since I've been going there. I'd never seen the bullet hole. I'd never seen a bullet hole on a building before. So it was like, sometimes I was experiencing these things along with the character, So anyway, that's kind of how it went. It definitely, I'd say it was probably like, we shot over like more or less a 2-week period. And I thought it was a very enjoyable, I mean, it's one of my favorite shoots I've ever had, ever. So, you know, and yeah, when we had pretty good weather too, which we're very lucky about that, even though it snowed unseasonably a few times, which was weird. But it snowing in April,
it, so now
we
it's
put
in
it in the
movie.
movie. Actually, the very first shot, it's like looking out the train window. I put that in there because I'm like, well, it looks cool, but like where it doesn't fit in the narrative, the regular, you know, let's call it the A narrative, but it can go in the B narrative, the Transylvania tape, you know,
which we had fun
sequences.
Shooting separately and putting that together.
So that's where that's where we put it. So we always like, if you see something cool, just shoot it, figure it out later.
Amazing. Yeah, that's really a key thing with found footage, and a lot of filmmakers that we've spoken to in the past. Their main objective is just to not stop filming, so that they can catch anything, whether it's the slightest thing. Because for someone that's watching a film, you don't know what they'll pick up on or how they'll interpret a scene or a specific piece of dialogue or a specific setting. So it's always great to have options like that. And it was very effective. It definitely immerses you in that, especially with some of the train rides and going through to some of these locations. I thought it was absolutely beautiful, and being able to experience it, that must have been fantastic.
That train ride sequence is like my probably one of my favorite sequences in the movie. Like, I was so happy to get what we got, because I'd seen that stuff out the window. I'd seen the guys with the horse-drawn carriages, you know, I'd seen the animals grazing, I'd seen, you know, some of this stuff off and on, and, you know, for real other years. And I was like, oh man, I hope it'll happen again, because you can't, you know, it's just going to happen or it's not going to happen. You just have to have the camera with you. And that was a 6-hour train ride. It's like a 6.5-hour train ride from Bucharest to Sighisoara. So we had plenty of time to film stuff. And we didn't shoot the whole time, you know, but there were times where you kind of always had to have it on the ready. Like, you almost couldn't even have a snack sometimes, because you're like, oh, what shit, you know, I'm going to, you know, there's that horse out there that's not going to be there again, you know? So I'm glad you enjoyed that sequence. I was really hoping it would convey the feeling of travel through that place and see all those kind of cool
and see the old
details.
parts of, you know, the world.
You're abandoning,
you know,
you're going out of civilization, you know, you're kind of moving on into a rural, older area. You know,
this
that was the whole idea.
Still exists, you know, it's a lifestyle that's still going on. And
little
we just wanted
the
to
chimneys
show
with
that.
Smoke coming out of them. I mean, that's like a storybook kind of little.
The old train
cottages.
stations in the middle of nowhere, that feeling of nothing happens there, you know.
Yep. So we wanted to get all that in there. It was so nice to be able to finally do that after basically writing that, and, you know, writing scripts that had sequences like that, because they probably always had train sequences. They all because
I'm obsessed with trains. I love Brad loves trains too.
So I was like, man, you know, and I wanted to get that shot at the back of the train.
First time I think on a train was in Romania. That's why we put that also.
I've never been on a train
for the character.
Yeah, I've never been on a train in the U.S. like a train like that anyway. But I've always been trains in Europe. That's another story.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I know that all too well. I've been on quite a few trains across Europe, across the UK, and things like that. It's definitely it's such a sight. Even going from like so you can catch a train from Edinburgh to Newcastle in England. Even going from Edinburgh in Scotland to Newcastle in England, it's such a scenic route. You just see so much more, rather than when you're driving on a highway on a back road or something like that. So it's just so much, and you don't have to concentrate on the road. You can just sit back and relax and enjoy the scenery.
I mean, we were wondering about that too. Like, is there going to be, because there's, you know, obviously the guys that come through, ticket takers and checking here and there, and we're thinking, are they going to shut us down? Are they going to tell us to stop filming? Or we do this kind of surreptitiously, you know, quietly? No, that never really happened. I mean, we weren't flagrant about it, and we weren't obstructing anything. We always did it in kind of a subtle way. We never obstructed any or really called attention to ourselves at all. But you know, like, she was surprised. I went and shot that one scene with Valeria where she's talking on the phone, and she's kind of in between the two cars, you know, and she gets a phone call, and another train went by in the background, which was perfect. You couldn't plan that out. And then we just went and did it real quick and did 3 takes and came back, and Josephine was like, "You guys finished it?" Yeah, we finished it. You know, she thought we probably got in trouble or something. Somebody was like, "You can't be in here," you know. Maybe if you did it 20 years ago, that might have happened.
Yeah,
maybe it's good we made the movie now versus in 2005, because it would probably been a lot more, you know, there might have been more restrictions and bad attitudes.
Difficult.
Yeah, I also don't think, as far as permits and all that goes, I've said this before, you could have spent a lot more money making this movie and still made the same movie, because you just end up paying a lot of people to stand around. You've been paying a lot of fees for things that are out of control anyway, like the environment. I mean, like everybody knows when you make a movie, I mean, I don't care if you're Paramount Pictures or you're, making a micro budget movie. I mean, when a plane goes over, you stop rolling sound, I mean, if you're in a big public space, people are going to come through. I mean, I don't care how many PAs you got locking up. I know this because I've done those jobs. I mean, people, come every which way. Things happen. Somebody could be all yelling off camera.
You can block even if you have a lot of money, a lot,
Yeah.
huge areas, just maybe
Big
parts
touristy
of
areas.
it. So still you're gonna have issues.
Yeah, you would all that stuff. It just would have
Yeah.
been harder, and it would have been more obvious of movies being made, and there would have been more people with their hands out.
Right.
So we
which we didn't afford it. That was the whole point
that was
of
the whole
just
point.
getting a bit of equipment and just packing it and
Yeah.
just going and
We brought
making
everything
it.
with it. Like everything we used on this film, we brought with us from LA.
We had some, friends borrow us a tripod
Yeah,
here and
a
there or
couple of
this or
things.
that, but we brought mostly everything with
Yeah,
us.
95%
Yeah.
of it was brought from there.
Nice. And with that, what was the type of camera setup or the rig setup for actually making the film?
I mean, as basic as you can probably think. I have the 1080p camera, a Sony 1080p
We had
camera.
two of them.
I had
just in
two of
case.
those. The story with the camera is actually, this is the thing with the camera. The last three movies we made before Transylvania Tapes were anthologies, horror anthologies, and one of them was called High 8. Going back to the tapes and all that, and High Death and High Fear. Now these are multi-part anthologies. The reason I bring these up is because for certain parts of them, especially due to the nature of the project, was kind of a back to your roots kind of project. I shot for example, in the first film, I shot my segment myself. Now that was on mini DV. That was with a different camera. But then starting with the second film and the third film, I started shooting with a 1080p camera that we got from a friend, and then I got another one. I liked it, so I got another one. And we not only shot that, but we also shot some making of things lately too. We've been using these cameras a lot, basically, the last few years, especially since the pandemic. And so I think that kind of was a big decision maker too, because I was getting so familiar with shooting with the camera, shooting dramatic stuff, shooting documentary stuff. I'm like, I'm just going to shoot the whole movie with this because I'm used to this camera. I know this camera, And then,
you don't want to
she said,
experiment with things there.
no,
You don't
no,
want
no.
to bring something that you might test here, but if something happens,
Right,
you're
right.
gonna really have to have it a shoe in.
I know
and
there are
just go and
higher end
do
cameras
it.
out there. I'm aware of that, but I did not want to
We shot with those.
Experiment-
But we
yeah,
didn't want
I've-
to bring something
yeah.
huge that would get a lot of attention
yeah.
and also experiment.
And
If
maybe
something
have problems,
happens, it has
too.
problems, then what?
I mean, this was, so I got an extra one, I call it the B camera. It was our B camera. And we had two of those, exact same model. And I figured, well, this way too, if one has a problem, we've got the other one, and there were some scenes like the interviews with certain people. We shot that more like a traditional thing with tripod, and we actually did roll both cameras to get a close-up and a medium because, we had two cameras, let's use them. But most of the time we just shot it like single camera kind of thing. So that's how it was.
It was just handheld, no rigs.
No rigs, just handheld. And
he's really good with handheld
just
and
what I'm-
steady hand, and
I shot so many movies like that when I was younger that it kind of never went away.
It's a
And
second nature.
I enjoyed doing it more recently too on the anthologies. I had fun doing that. It was kind of cool to just have that unobstructed creative thing. Like this is, the eye to the camera to the hand, and you just got it. You don't have to communicate anything to anyone. Look, like I said, DPs, I love working with DPs, especially if they're really good and they're cool people. I love working with DPs. Some films you need that. You absolutely need that. But in this one, I feel like it's the nature of the project. Once again, found footage. I feel like, well, this is supposed to be a girl and her friend who, are going over there, and he's shooting it. He's a shooter for a local TV station. It's not like she's going there to make like the slickest, biggest thing ever anyway. It's almost more like, I want to get this stuff on camera and we'll see what we get. That's more her attitude. So she gets her friend to do it. So yeah, and that was interesting too for me as let's call it the DP, to interact with her as like a scene partner. And that's also something I'm sure that happens on found footage all the time too. You're not just shooting the movie, you are a character. The camera is a character. I mean, you don't see Dylan until the end of the movie. You hear him, but you don't see him. He wasn't there. Josephine did all his lines off camera. We dubbed all that in later on. In fact, we hadn't even cast that actor when we made the movie. So that was kind of interesting from several points of view. But as a DP, or just, you know, I don't want to call myself a DP on this movie really, but as someone who's shooting the movie, it was unique and different to kind of feel like you're interacting with her as a scene partner and responding to her sometimes, going back or forth, or however what would you do? You know, how do you feel like an actor would? And that's kind of interesting, because that doesn't necessarily usually happen on a regular film with the camera is not that responsive. So that was kind of interesting. But yeah, it was real basic. It was probably as basic as you can imagine. I didn't want to go below that. I wasn't trying to make this like a retro project in that sense, like so retro that it's like going below 1080p. But that's what we did.
Nice. Yeah, it's awesome. I just came into my grandpa had passed away, and he had like a cache of old cameras, video cameras, handy cams. He was just obsessed with technology, and always would get the newest stuff at the time. So I've been working on a project myself with a couple of friends who are local. So I'm mostly there to film BTS and sort of just help
What
around.
are you shooting with? Like, which one did you pick from all the cameras that you got?
So it's funny. I actually have it right here. It's a JVC Averio like handy cam. So
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's
this
not
was
far.
one.
That's not far from what we used. I mean, that's a
Nice.
very similar. Yeah, kind
Those
of,
are very cool, fun, easy
Yeah.
to use.
yeah, with the flip
Yeah.
out, screen and all that. And
Yeah.
we did a lot of tests with it actually before for this film alone, we did a lot of tests in terms of the sound, which had an incredible microphone on it. Actually, be really careful around that microphone sometimes because it would pick up a lot.
Yeah.
Better than probably like a regular, boom and thing. We did some nighttime shooting tests. What's interesting? We did these nighttime shooting tests in LA, like in our area here, and it's so much darker here than it is in Bucharest. And I know people probably have this impression, Eastern Europe, whoa, scary, there's no lights on, everything's bad, broken down, and whatever. It's so much brighter and better lit and safer there. And like that's why our shots look as good as they do, and they're not all breaking up and like super grainy, because there's just a lot of light to work with. And there's even light. Even in Transylvania, there was a lot of light. Even at night, they light those streets up and just leave them lit up all night.
Actually, that's something I was obsessed with for years, to show how, this kind of medieval cities are lit, because it's this beautiful golden light that is just so particular to them. And I'm happy that we're able to capture that in a movie.
Yeah.
Because that was an obsession for me.
And we didn't want to, that was another thing with the camera. We did make conscious decisions to not do a lot of experimentation in terms of with color temperature, trying to like affect in post, not at all. And even in camera, which is probably not a good idea most of the time anyway, to kind of get yourself stuck in a certain, because everything had its own look. I wanted Bucharest to have more of a, let's just say if you wanted to go with color temperature, Bucharest was blue and Sighisoara was orange. And that's just kind of how it really worked. I mean, it's just the textures and the colors in Bucharest are more gray and blue, and in Sighisoara, and we shot more at night in Sighisoara as well. Like she said, you have that golden orange light, and that doesn't need any. You don't need to accentuate that or do anything to that.
Don't mess with
That's
something
how it
that's
looks.
good.
That's
in
how
my
it looks.
opinion.
That's how it looks, and also once again, it's a found footage movie, so I think you need to be careful sometimes with you treating things in
Sometimes
post.
even if it's a bit too dark, it's okay, because that's
It's
the
okay.
reality of that scene.
We knew
don't
it would
need
get
to-
dark and it would break.
Yeah.
We knew it would break up and it would, I don't want to say pixelate, but it would get grainier.
Sometimes
knew
you
that
get
would
a
happen.
cat in the shot. That's okay.
good. That's good. But black cat walks through the frame. That's
That's
cool.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, we embraced the environments, and we shot more in this movie than any movie I've ever probably, I don't even know how many hours we shot, but probably around 10, 12 hours, something like that. And I'm a guy who started off when I first started directing, they were actually shooting on film, believe it or not. And like some of these were really low budget films where you had to deliver an hour and a half movie, but you're only given 6 hours of dailies. So it was like a 4-to-1 ratio, something like that. I mean, you have to cull a 90-minute movie out of 6 hours. That's a challenge. And also to shoot those movies in 6 days sometimes, or 7 days. But that kind of gives you a discipline so that when you do something like this, you You do know when to cut the camera off. That's kind of a thing with video.
And we did have a schedule, you know, it was
Yeah.
a schedule, it was
Yeah.
a rehearsal, it was scheduled for every day. It was very much done like a regular
Oh, yeah.
movie in terms of scheduling. But you know, at the same time, like after the main photography was done and before, Brett and I went and shot a lot of details, whatever that we thought would look cool, we might need or not. We meet with a friend, let's bring the camera, and you know, if something looks cool, let's just shoot it. And
that happened all the
kind of
time.
thing.
Like you see, like for example, in the movie, it's just a brief part. You probably won't remember it, but there's a scene that's like one of the Transylvania tape sequences where you see a church and you see candles and you see a procession and all these kind of things going on at night, and you hear like monks chanting in the background. Well, that was all basically not planned. I mean, I did want to do something with that church, which is like a 300-year-old church that's a major tourist attraction. What I didn't plan on was an Easter procession. There was actually a Good Friday procession that was going on that just happened to be going on the day we were there, the night we were there. So it was this like kind of evening, you know, it wasn't quite dark, but it was still dark enough. And I just whipped the camera out and just filmed all that. And I even did a real long recording of the sound because I knew somehow we'd use that sound somewhere in the movie. I didn't know where, but we were going to use it. And sure enough, we used it in that sequence and we used it in the trailer too, because it's just, it's real. It's authentic. You can't just pull that from wherever. That's real people chanting and playing instruments. And
yeah, I mean, for sound, you know, obviously we had to put some music in the movie. It's not like a very found footage kind of thing, but sometimes you do break the rules.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
Brett likes music so much that he couldn't just not use music.
I didn't know, you know, like when I was writing it, I was not thinking about that. But there were certain scenes where I was like, we might do something, you know? And then as we started editing it, well, you know, then things started to become more obvious about what could use music or what couldn't. And, you know, that's when I got in touch with Jake Lee, who's a, you know, actually an electronic artist. Like he plays shows, like, you know, he just he let me use some tracks, and then I have my friend Terry Hudd, who's a composer, a regular film composer we work with. He did some things too. So the movie has kind of a mixture of like found music, I guess you could call it, and then pieces that Terry did that are based around the nursery rhyme theme that you hear in the movie.
That's more like a Euro horror that, you know, we're trying to create also with this kind of like a mix of found footage with a bit of Euro horror in it.
Yeah. So that's why I say I wouldn't have wanted to make this movie here, because it had to be a Euro horror movie and it had to be a found footage movie. Both.
Very cool.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Hand you over a question, David?
Yes. So I wanted to know a little bit more about the culture of Romania and curses. You know, what was the significance of the coin with the curse? Like how do they, you know, intertwine with each other or work with each other? Yes.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I'll defer to you on this one.
It's something that stayed with me for a long time. It's a weird thing that happens. My mom told me long time ago, I think in my childhood, that like if it was like in the village somewhere, in villages, it was an old habit of leaving money, a coin, in the coffin of a dead person to have money to be able to go on the other side. And also, for some reason, a handkerchief. But if you take the handkerchief, if you steal it from the coffin, which I'm like, why would you do that? But I guess people used to do that. They put curses on the coin and the handkerchief. That's something that they used to do. So that kind of, it's something that stayed with me. Obviously, I didn't think I'm going to necessarily put it in the movie. I always thought it was weird and creepy. So that's where that comes from. It's and you know, the curse that's in the movie, I wrote it myself, and I was like kind of creeped out when she was saying it on set, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I actually did write that. But that's something also based on real things that, you know, it is a reverse of a curse that can happen for real, or in the folklore, or, you know, some people believe in that. And it is also always an obsession with land in Romania, with properties. It is still, people try to recover properties that were stolen during the communism. They're taking away from them. So all these things are things that I lived with probably in my childhood and after, till coming here. So probably I kind of just took all this, and that's what I put it in
Kind of
the
put your own
script.
spin on it.
Yeah.
Incorporated some real, legends, but then kind of put your own spin on it.
Trying to
make it
create-
original.
Right. But
Yeah.
that's where they're
But
coming
it's based
from.
in-
It's
it is
based
based
on
in-
real things that I, grew up, stayed with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was something we really wanted to do with this movie, was just try to do some original things. Because I feel like some people are going to think Transylvania Tapes, so it's a vampire movie. I actually want people to think that, because then they'll get, well, maybe unpleasantly surprised, but it's,
You don't want to do the cliche.
That's like something that dropped by the wayside that I'm actually glad dropped on this project, was the vampire thing, because that was something that we had in the first two versions, but by the time we got to this one, there was like, no way we're doing a vampire film. It's just, and somehow as a found footage movie, I really didn't think that would work well. I just didn't think so. I've made a few vampire movies. I just didn't, maybe I'm bored with it. I just didn't think it would work for this. I think it's kind of,
It has to be more ingrained.
Make it
in
more
the
authentic,
culture
make it
of
more
the
authentic.
place, and show something else, other weird things from the culture. Because the Dracula, okay, we've all heard about that. That's why we kind of make fun of it in the movie.
I mean, we were filming in Dracula's birthplace, Vlad Dracula's birthplace for real. But that's why we kept putting that stuff in there, because it's almost like a joke, like a wink to the audience, like, see, we're giving you your Dracula stuff, but this is not a vampire film. It's something that Romanians use to make money off of tourism.
But they don't believe in that.
But they don't
thing.
believe in that.
But in curses, they do believe. In this thing with the coin and the handkerchief and weird little traditional things in some remote village, they still believe in this kind of superstitions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. So when I had seen the whole thing with the curse, the coin, the handkerchief, it kind of reminded me or made me think of the movie Drag Me to Hell. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Where the family of gypsies that have come from Romania, they did the curse coin and things like that. And that's what the culture of Romania and stuff like that kind of made me ask that question if indeed that was a true thing, that the curse, things like that over there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's still gypsies. There's not as many there as there used to be, but that's part of the culture too.
That's why we have the guy with the bird.
I mean, like
movie.
you see that scene where the guy puts a bird on her head, and she's got the that scene. It's okay,
It's a
little bit. Well, that's something like, okay, there's a funny story about that. Like, that's a gypsy. They're usually like going around kind of doing different kind of like touristy kind of things to try to make a buck. And
Totally.
that particular scheme, I guess you could call it, is he's got a bunch of birds, a couple of parakeets, and a box with a bunch of cards in it, little cards. And what he does is asks you when your birth date is, and then based on that, the bird is going to pick your fortune. And the bird literally goes down with its beak and pulls out a card. Okay, fair enough. You pay $1 and you get the card, and it's a fun thing to do, right? Well, what happens though, it happened to me in the past, is the bird started picking one after another, and all of a sudden your tab is going up. Now you're paying $5, $6, whatever.
So
it's
that's
going
when
up.
I have to come in
And then
and
she
stop
comes in and
it,
stops it. Well, but that made an impression on me, and I still thought it was funny. I didn't care if the guy's trying to rip me off. I thought it was funny. And you still have those guys around playing accordions, the type of things you'd expect. Well, we're filming there in front of that church. Actually, I keep going back to that, but we went there for a lot of scenes. And one of those guys came walking up to us, and Josephine's immediate reaction was, "Let's get away. I'm going to tell him to go away." I said, "No, that's exactly what we're not going to do. I'm going to leave the camera on and get her to be in character and do the bird thing with a fortune." And that worked out so well, because the guy
was speaking English.
He was speaking English. He put the bird on her head, which I didn't. I mean, look, I was filming. He knew I was filming, so maybe he was doing it for the camera. It doesn't matter. He only picked one. He didn't pick multiple.
No, but
fortunes.
at the end he was trying to get me to,
Okay.
go for it. It's like, okay, just, okay, here's some
But
money.
that's what
Thank
they do.
you.
That's what they do. But I wanted to get that guy in there because that's the real Bucharest, and that's like a cool little weird, like, cultural thing that I don't think other people necessarily experience.
And that was not in the script.
It was not in the script, but I thought it was perfect too, because it's lighthearted, and I wanted lighter moments at the first third of the movie, at least, before it gets really dark. I thought that would be better to kind of almost fool the audience in a way, like you feel like you're watching something milder, like you're watching somebody's YouTube video of their travels, and then it's just going to get worse and worse. But till then, it's going to be funny. And that was a perfect moment for that, and that worked out. So, and she was just like so in character. He asked her name, and she just responded. And this was fast. This thing's happened fast. I mean, she didn't have any prep for anything with this. I said, "Turn the camera on. Let's do this." The guy's coming over here. That's how it was sometimes. And she just was so like, just made a steal. You know what I mean? Like nothing. She didn't get flustered by anything. So I was glad.
And it's her first movie.
That was her first movie. Never been in a movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
She did a great job, and I actually believe on some level it's good that she wasn't in other movies, because those experiences might have given her an impression of how filmmaking is supposed to be versus how we were doing it, which is, like Josephine said, organized, scheduled, and all that, but it's made so bare bones and it's so improvisational and flexible sometimes. It is very different than a regular movie, even a regular, let's say, low budget movie.
Yeah.
So and she had to, I couldn't believe, just working without a scene partner and all those long takes, very impressive, very impressive. And she learned some things too, because she hadn't been to some of those places either. Like she hadn't been to Sigishwara, right? Yeah. So she hadn't been there, and so it was almost like she was really experiencing it the way her character was.
Either.
Yeah, she hadn't been in a train.
So she was experiencing some things her character was experiencing. And she did live abroad for a while, so she could, she was living in another country before, so she could pull from that experience for her character as well. Yeah. But a lot, from Mara is me, obviously, because Mara is you. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but she made it her own. I mean, really, and she got it. She got it, and there was no. Thank goodness there wasn't a lot, because that could have completely ruined a film like this, to have a lead actress that's in every scene who creates problems or is unprepared or God knows what. I mean, that could have wrecked the whole thing. I mean, we would have finished the movie, but it just wouldn't have been as enjoyable, and it wouldn't have come out as well. So, we're really grateful. Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Never met her before, and cast her online and all that. So it was just
amazing.
Yeah,
it was a bit nerve-wracking for me.
She wasn't even in
never done that before.
Yeah, we never. I'll just tell the short version of this. I mean, we did see other actresses. We did. This was all online though. We never met with anybody, and she was our favorite pick. And when we offered her the role, one of our questions, where are you right now? Because I mean, her phone was like in Dubai or something, right?
Yeah, the phone is Dubai. She had to go training in London. So I'm like, where are you?
Where are you? And she's like, well, I'm in Moldavia. She's like in a neighboring country to Romania. She's up in the north. And we're like, okay. So, Josephine started getting concerned.
Nervous, yeah.
And she's like, oh, I'll be there, because we're flying over. She's flying up. And I told Josephine, I said, well, we're not there either. I mean,
why are you so nervous? We're not there.
We might not show up. We're in another country. I mean, she could come over, or we're in another, continent. She could just, get over there pretty quickly. Probably take an hour or something to fly.
At the most, yeah.
So, we all met up, and literally I always like to tell this story. The first day we met, we filmed. I mean, like the first day we met, she came over to Josephine's mom's place. We were staying. We did a read through of the script, made some adjustments to some things like you do on any other movie. And then it was like still light outside for a while. And we met up in the morning, and we were like, what do we think about filming some scenes? And she was up for doing it. So we went and shot a bunch of short.
Around there, because it's, I wrote a few scenes around there. And, also to make it easy for us to start to see how we work together, get an idea of how that happens, just a bit of warm up.
Everybody, from me, for her. I mean, I'm filming on the streets of Bucharest, like everything. I mean, and so that's how it went. But that went well. In fact, we even got ahead of schedule that day. We even shot a few extra things we didn't plan on, and that's when I was like, okay, this is going to go. We're going to finish. We're going to make, and we're going to finish this movie. And she told us that she didn't have that conclusion until a few days later. we were filming at night in Old Town, and we did a take after take of this one thing. And she said, afterwards, after we shot that's when I knew you guys were going to complete this film, because I guess because that was tough. That was actually pretty tough. But yeah, so we all believed in each other. after
a few days.
After 2 or 3 days of working together, we all believed in each other and that we could complete this movie. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, she did a great job. It was so believable, and that's such a core fundamental factor when it comes to found footage.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that believability and the realism, and she absolutely brought that. She did a great job. Great job.
Yeah, excellent. Next couple questions, kind of fun ones. We like to round off with a couple of fun questions. So if you were in a found footage movie, what three things would you need to survive?
It depends what found footage movie it is, I guess, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does depend. Let's say for the sake of argument, let's say for instance, surviving a serial killer, for example. What three things would you need to survive that?
Well, I need my coin, my handkerchief, and I'm gonna put my curse on him. What do you think?
That's a good answer.
Well,
I was thinking like a
That's-
knife
that's
or
a
something
solid
like
answer.
that. See, I think we'll stick with her answer. I'll do the same. I'll say the same.
and
It
maybe
depends-
a camera too. You never know. It
because you
might-
got to get it on. You got to get it on
Exactly.
camera. Other if it picks her, it didn't happen. You know,
Exactly.
so
Oh, yeah.
I mean that's fun.
I usually go with a sensible pair of shoes because we're gonna have to be
Always.
running at some point.
Yeah,
so.
that
You
pretty
need
much
those too,
that
but
pretty
you-
much applies to any found
and
footage
and
film.
also shooting a found footage movie. You
Yeah,
need to be
right.
very like make sure you don't fall. Like I thought he might fall while he was shooting the movie because it's like all these cobblestones everywhere. I'm
Right,
like he's
yeah.
gonna fall at some point easily because he's running,
Going backwards.
he's going backwards, but that didn't happen. So
Didn't happen.
comfortable shoes
my
definitely.
Spidey sense kicked in, and I just
Now, so that is a good answer with the camera, of course, right? Because you need it. So some popular answers that we've gotten so far is a flashlight, for dark places. But I
Sure.
think, you could rule out a flashlight if you had a camera that had the built-in light. That would work out for you.
right.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
That could be you could use that for a couple of different things, multi-purpose.
Hell yeah.
Especially if you have that really long one, that's the hard metal one, you can actually use it as a beating stick.
There
So-
you go.
Yeah, the
Tripod
tripod.
can help.
Someone getting beaten to death with a tripod. I think
Could be kind of fun.
I've seen that a few times.
Yeah,
Wow.
It's all been done.
that's why it's hard to
Yeah.
make
It
movies
really
nowadays
is.
because you do want to contribute to something original, but so much has been done that
Yeah.
you're,
For sure.
and we don't want to repeat things because that's not fun.
Yeah.
Right.
For
Yeah,
sure.
it's always good to have a fresh new take on things, and ideas come out. So that's how we keep the genre growing bigger and bigger, is going outside the boundaries and making something
Yep.
different.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that was one of the things I kind of like, when I've seen a fair number of found footage movies, and then I watched more, like especially some newer ones, when we were putting this together. And one of the things that just hit me after 3 or 4 or 5 movies or whatever, I was like, there are no rules to any of this, like they don't have really okay, I guess if you really want to get into a big discussion about there's some tropes, and stuff, but like, to me, it's not as so much as like there is with like a slasher film or a zombie film or certain like rules that are almost established since Night of the Living Dead or since Halloween or since whatever. And these things keep coming back with Final Girl and that and the other. Found footage is not that rigid. And that's what's kind of cool. That is definitely what's cool about it for a filmmaker is
It's more liberating.
it's more liberating.
Mhm.
And you can
Yeah.
even stretch it. Like we stretched it in directions like we talked about Euro horror.
Yeah, and the
I
music
I
and things
stretched it
that
with the
other
music.
people might not do.
They
but
might not do that. They might say, oh, that's too much like a
we
movie.
found
Well,
a way to do it.
we found a way to do it. And my feeling about it was, though, this is one of those found footage movies that's assembled in post, right? It's not the, we found a tape, we found a memory card, whatever, and everything that's on it's uncut. That's fine. That's another very well-known, whatever, popular way of doing it. There's also tons of really cool ones where it's assembled later on, and I feel like, well, this is going to be one of those. We have to make those decisions. This is going to be assembled later on, and it's assembled by Dylan. It's assembled by the guy who lost her, who was frankly in love with her, let's face it. And so when you think of it that way, that makes certain choices make more sense, that Dylan would do this or he would do the other, or he would focus on
Right.
some aspect or even take a more romantic tone to certain things because he's the guy who put it together. This isn't just a random editor who got the footage and goes, I don't know what this was. All these people are, I don't know who these people are, Cannibal Holocaust or something, which is probably my favorite found footage movie, where it's just the distance there between the editor and the filmmakers who made the thing. This is like very close, very intimate. So
For
that's kind of something that we knew going in, and we played on that, and then we were able to even play on that even more in post. We could kind of occasionally kind of push it in a more cinematic direction, traditional, I guess you could say, cinematic direction because of that. But I think there are no rules, right? I mean, you guys have seen way more of these
And
films
we
than I
have,
have.
yeah.
And there's just no rules. Whatever movie you want to throw out there, there's many one-offs, and then there's which is great, and hopefully ours is one of those too, that just kind of stands
I
out.
mean, we
and-
even stopped watching found footage movies before
We did.
going there because we didn't want to like have like any cliches in our heads. We kind of just wanted to be like,
Fair.
just
Yeah.
be fresh, like, okay, we know, but now we forget about it. We
Yeah.
learned for the exam, but now
Yeah,
we're going fresh and just kind of create your own thing because
Right.
you just don't want to. You don't want people to watch your thing, be like, oh, that's like that movie or that movie or that movie. That's really, we're trying to
Yeah.
avoid that.
yeah, that was the. I mean, I
Sure.
feel like with this movie, if even people don't care for it,
Yeah.
they can't say this was just an imitative knockoff of X movie X, like found footage movie X or
They
regular.
might not like it.
whatever
That's
horror
okay.
film.
Might not be for some people.
Yeah,
That's okay.
yeah.
But
Like it's interesting you mentioned Drag Me to Hell because I mean I'm a Sam Raimi fan and I saw that movie in the theater and I mean I enjoyed it and I never would have made that connection at all ever, and that's great. That's great because everybody is seeing your movie through their own set of eyes, their own set of influences or whatever. And actually, I get it. I know exactly
Yeah,
what
I
the
know
gypsy with the
exactly.
coin. Now I'm
Mhm.
thinking about it, going, yeah, that was the whole thing that set that off, and the curse, and the
Yeah.
girl can't get out from under the curse. So it's just interesting though. Like I just, but we tried to do something that's relatively, which for us it's tough with all the things we've seen.
But
and
with
everything.
this one, just
Oh,
going back to like personal things.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
how we-
It's more about that than
it's-
anything.
yeah.
Whenever people ask me, like, what were some of your influences? I can name a few Italian horror movies, which you might be able to even guess by watching this. But really, it's more personal than anything. It's really based on experiences, her experiences, and some of my experiences, and things we've seen and done, and places we've visited, and people. I mean, I'm not going to get into all of it, but some of the characters in this are very, very close to the real people that we knew, who aren't even with us anymore. Who are characters in the movie, but they're
like
real.
her mother
Like the mother basically is a real person who actually
used to be a
was an
major
actress.
and I worked with her, and I always wanted her to be in one of this movie I would be making in Romania. Fortunately, she passed away, and this was a way for me to honor her memory and bring her on screen. And her daughter allowed me to use her photos, gave me a bunch
That's why
of
that stuff feels so real,
photos.
because it is real. I mean, like that's her,
Right.
and then like some of the the guys who are like the interview subjects, those are guys that they're actors that are like major actors over there
that we met
that
on
we
Phantom
met
Town
back
on
in
the
the day.
movie that we
Yeah.
met them as
Yeah.
well.
So we
So
wanted
it
them
was
in the
fun
movie.
to work with them finally.
Yeah.
And they're such great actors. They've been in hundreds of movies,
Yeah.
some American movies. So
Yeah, we
was
really
great to
wanted
work
them
with
in the film. That's just more like a personal thing. Like I just want that guy in my movie. But he's good and he fits the part. And we even wrote those parts with them in mind. There are a lot of parts actually written with people
Almost
in mind.
everything.
Not the
like
lead.
maybe like
not the lead
or
would-
very small part. Some girl in the park or something.
Right.
But
But anyone who's
yeah.
speaking as a speaking part was generally that was written for them, hoping we could get them because we didn't know till we got there.
sometimes, yeah.
Some of them you couldn't even get in touch with them till you got on the ground, and you're like, okay, we're on the ground. It was like a military mission, now you're on the ground. Let's see where we're at.
So we're like shooting,
Yeah.
casting,
Yeah.
getting scheduled for a location shoot all in the same time. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, oh well. That's how we did it.
Did some sound recording,
That
voiceovers,
too.
things like that. So
We
it
did as
was-
much as we could while we were there because I wanted, even the making of, we shot stuff like interviews for that because I wanted it to people to feel more in the moment. Plus, we're there with them, frankly, but also because sometimes it's better when you get people right then and there versus like
On
a
location,
year
too.
later. Whatever,
Right.
they'll
Yeah.
remember things, but it's just different. It's not the
Yeah.
same.
So I felt this. So it is one of the common questions that we will ask filmmakers. What are some of the influences for the film that you're doing or have made? And I didn't feel that question really applied here because usually in more of the more recent found footage movies, you can tell influences from what other found footage came before this movie that influenced the movie that is being made. And with yours, you kind of set out to do something more personal, more cultured for the area that you were filming. And I think you did something really unique here and different. And you hit all the check boxes that you wanted to because I didn't really think
Thank you.
that
Great.
That
that
means a
question-
lot.
It means a lot to us.
That
yeah.
means a lot to us to hear that, because I mean, I'm got so many horror movies in my brain all the time that I my movies. I'm always referencing things. I can't help it, but you always have to kind of try to keep that down as much as you do. You want to do something original. This one, I really tried to suppress that because I just didn't think it was in the spirit of the project at all. I mean, sometimes I was thinking about certain Italian horror movies. Like I said, we would step into a cemetery and I would like, this reminds me of such and such French horror movie that I really like or something. And I would kind of shoot stuff here and there that I felt was in the spirit of that. But generally speaking, you need to kind of stick with the overall tone of the piece and not just go off into an homage of some kind.
Right.
So I was hoping that people would feel the Euro horror vibes, if you will.
Yeah, for sure.
Without it being like, here's a Lucio Fulci shot, here's a whatever. I love that stuff. And if you really know those movies, you might notice some little things here and there. But overall, yeah, we were trying to just do something more original. I treated that more to her too.
For
I
sure.
should keep him in check. Now not to go Tarantino on me sometimes.
Yeah, it's tough, but it wasn't that tough actually, because everything that we're seeing most of the time, we go to these places and they're so cool looking and so full of cool visual information that you don't really feel the need to, turn that into something else. You kind of want to present it as is,
Right.
to people
Makes
as
sense.
is, and it's either gonna work, or people are gonna like it or they're not. But it's gonna be it's unfiltered. It's not gonna be really filtered through some other influence, I guess. So I'm glad you felt that way about it. That means a lot to us to hear that.
Absolutely.
That was one of our goals. So
Yeah, for sure. And
I'll knock it out of the park.
you mentioned as well that you had seen some more recent found footage films leading up to this. What were some that stood out, or any particular films that you'd seen that you liked that are more modern found footage? I'm always one for like underrated gems like that people don't talk about, so I'm always curious what people watch and like when it comes to found footage.
Well, these are all things you've probably already seen, but I just kind of went through, some things that all looked, like for example, this is not that new, but the Taking of Deborah Logan, I thought that was really impressive.
Brilliant.
Really impressive. That was a bigger budget movie, clearly, but just what they did with that, with the elderly, actress that they had playing the lead in that too, and just the whole thing was
She's
super
great.
creepy. That was scary. This movie I had mixed feelings about, but I'm a huge fan of desert movies. I've made a few movies out in the desert myself, and I saw The Outwaters, which, have you guys seen that one? It's like a desert. Okay.
Yeah.
So that it really too long for what it is, but
Agreed.
at the same time, there was something about the way that movie ended where it got very surreal, almost cosmic horror kind of thing, where, you're looking through the camera and everything's surreal. It doesn't make any sense. That was disquieting to me. I thought that was more disturbing than say Hell House LLC, for example. Like to me, that's a movie that's like, I know those movies have their fans, but that to me feels a lot like a slasher film structure, but done through the found footage lens. It didn't really feel a whole lot different to me than like a lot of slasher movies I've seen and things like that. So I was impressed with Outwaters, I have to say, at the end of the day, and maybe I'm just a desert, I'm kind of more into
They
desert
did
stuff.
really great job with the desert setting and the characters, and everything was.
But the last
spot
third
on.
was what made. And it
Yeah.
was too long. The movie should have been half an hour, at least half an hour chopped out of that, or whatever. But this was when I just watched this by myself. Lake Mungo. I thought that was kind of interesting, just as a kind of more like a downbeat sadness to it. It's not really scary. It's just this sense of loss that you get from it. That's kind of profound. And those are some. I'll tell you one that I saw. This was something I saw a long time ago. Have you ever seen America's Deadliest Home Video? Have you ever seen that? Okay. Okay. I'm going to recommend you guys a found footage movie. This was made in I think the early 90s, the late 80s, early 90s. It's called America's Deadliest Home Video. And it's a found footage film, but it's shot on film. There's actually some like professional actors in it. There's a guy who was in the Partridge Family back in the day. He's one of the leads, Danny Bonaduce. And anyways, this actress named Laura Walters, who's in like Paul Thomas Anderson films and stuff. She's in it. It's like a gang of people on the road, kind of Natural Born Killers-esque kind of thing, but it's very effective, very effective. Long takes. and shot on film, which is even harder to do something like that, in my opinion, and pull it off. Really well done. And that movie, you can see that. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, but it's been released on like Blu-ray since. I mean, I saw it on VHS back in the day. The guy who directed, Jack Perez, has made a bunch of cool and actually bigger movies since then, but that's my favorite movie of his. So America's Deadliest Home Video, that's like one of my favorites, actually. You know, and that's an old, like I said, way older, but I really like that one. So those are, I don't know, those are some that
right now that
come to mind. I mean, yeah, you know, but like I said, one of the things I got from looking at a lot of this, especially some of the more recent things, was that they're all just very different. You know, they're like the ones I just mentioned. They're all like, you know, super different from each other. They all have different, you know, with the Poughkeepsie tapes or, you know, Behind the Mask, all this stuff. You know, some of those are more like the assembled later on kind of thing, kind of a news gathering kind of feel. You know, and then there's that what I call shock and awe, you know, like Wreck or something, where it's just like, oh my God, you know, we're running and these things are behind us. Oh my God, what do you do? You know, that kind of craziness. That's exactly what we knew we weren't going to do with Transylvania tapes. I will tell you, because that's more expensive to do things like that. I mean, they had a lot more money on the Wreck movies.
Yeah,
those Spaniards had millions of dollars to play with, you know, and they're very effective. But we knew we weren't going to make a movie like that, and I actually didn't really want to. I think that's been done very well by other people. We kind of wanted to do something that could be maybe done well by us.
right.
It hasn't necessarily been done by anyone else.
Right.
You know, and I know that's a tall order nowadays, but we just took our camcorder and over
Took
there.
a risk, see what happens. Say, are we going to actually complete this movie or
no,
what?
I always complete. I have no incomplete films.
We had plan B, C, D, you know.
Yeah, but it could have been a lot harder for sure.
Yeah, I thought it would be harder to
I mean,
shoot.
even the weather over there, it's like, of course, you kind of look like hindsight sort of thing. You look at the weather over there now, and it's way worse now and colder and rainier. And, you know, if rain would have killed us on this movie, if it had been a lot of rain, we would have been dead in the water because all the exterior stuff. I mean, that you can't get around.
Right.
You have to be outside. You know, where are you going to go? What's your cover set going to be? Well, there isn't one.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's not so much you can switch in the schedule.
No, you can't. That's not. We're flexible.
No.
We're not that flexible.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just go in the cellar and just have some plum brandy till
Right.
I don't know.
That's after we wrap.
Warm
That's
you
for
up,
sure.
yeah.
But yeah, you guys should check out that one. That's interesting. I saw you write
Yeah.
that down. So neither one
Yeah,
of these.
but
Wow.
no, never heard of it.
That
so
was like
I
before.
would
Let's
check
put
it
it this way. When it came out, that term was almost, it hadn't even been coined. Like when that movie came out, it was just more like this movie, like fake documentary, what they called it, faux doc, or they called it something like that. And then, like, you know, I remember, like, for example, I was at a preview screening of Blair Witch before it even came out to the public, and I remember people, you know, still didn't know what to make of this. And although there were some angry horror fans saying "Cannibal Holocaust," you know, yelling "Cannibal Holocaust" from the back of the auditorium. You know, Edward Sanchez would try to say something. Some guy would go, "Cannibal Holocaust," you know, your diehard horror fans. But it was such a new thing back then. So people didn't know what in the 90s. If someone made a movie like that, they didn't even know what to call it or do with it. So Jack Perez was ahead of his time with that. But
nice. Yeah, I'm definitely
yeah,
gonna
guys,
check it out.
check that out. Like I said,
Yeah.
I'm sure maybe it's streaming somewhere. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll find it. We'll find it. We'll
Cool.
find the tape.
We'll
find a
that
tape. Find a tape.
And with that recommendation, rounding off to our last question here, if it's movie night for y'all and you're sitting down to watch a movie, what is your go-to snack of choice for that movie night?
Go-to snack of choice? I don't know. I mean, we have different things, different nights.
Depends on the movie.
It depends on the movie.
Sometimes
It does
be
depend on the movie.
Cookie and some tea. Sometimes could be mulled wine and something.
Yeah,
Sometimes could be
it could be.
popcorn and some mocktail.
If it's a longer movie, like, you know, then you're probably going to have the mulled wine or something
Depends
like
on
that.
the mood of the movie too. If it's Blade Runner for 3 hours,
Right.
yeah,
If
mulled
it's
wine.
if it's Blade Runner Apocalypse Now, it's definitely going to be mulled wine. You know, that's for sure. But yeah, I don't know.
We kind of vary.
We kind of vary it.
Like I said, it's based on the movie. It's very serious around here with that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
bland.
not just what do you want to watch; it's what do
yeah.
you want to eat
with it.
when you
know?
watch.
Nightly.
And I remember, like, we had to pull up this sofa that you see here in the background. One day we had to buy it and put it together. It was terrible, just very difficult. We're beat by the end of the day. So we're like, we need to watch a good movie and just have some gin and tonic. So we did Paris,
We
Texas.
watched Paris, Texas,
and gin and tonic. So
Yeah.
we're so tired that you really needed a
You
beverage
get that,
then.
you get that Ry Cooder score going, you know, and Harry Dean out in the desert.
You need to chill a
Nastasia
bit after
Kinski.
putting a sofa together.
There you
There's
go.
that great photography, that great Robbie Mueller photography, and
So
just,
it depends. It really depends on the movie, on the
Yeah.
mood of the movie. It's like I said,
Yeah.
we do plan them.
right, we do.
We
So-
curate them here, food
Yeah,
and movies.
And now it sounds like to me maybe the wine would be the kind of one that maybe you end up going back to the most. Would you say that there's one other than that that would be like, although you do different things. Like for me, for instance, you know, my always go to is like popcorn and pickles, because if you go to a theater at home, that's just so classic with the movie, right? But you know, there's other days where, like, depending on the movie and things like that, where
Yeah.
it might turn into a pizza, or it might turn into an alcoholic beverage, or both, or you know, things
Right.
like that. But I always find myself going back to popcorn and pickle. It seems to be a Texas thing for me here. So yeah, that's my go-to.
I like the pickles.
Yeah, I like the
I like
pickles
the
side. Yeah, I
pickles.
love pickles.
Yeah. I like
Yeah,
popcorn,
Eastern
too.
Europe and pickles. Yeah, we're big on that too. So,
Oh wow, okay.
oh yeah, crazy. Yeah, oh yeah, serious business.
Big time. So yeah,
Yeah.
different things. It varies.
Mhm.
It depends. The
Yeah.
weekend is usually when you bust out like the
Mulled wine.
the mulled
and,
wine or the bigger desserts. The weekdays are more sometimes nothing at all, believe it or
We're
not.
trying to watch our
Or
figures here.
popcorn, maybe popcorn and a soda, you know, something kind of like that. Or, you know, so it's sort
Like
of
I said, a mocktail.
popcorn's always a classic, really.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it really is. You really can't go wrong with that.
It,
So,
it always stems from nostalgia, because as a kid, you know, you went to the movies with your parents and family, and popcorn was always the cheaper thing to get. So it's always
right.
become so synonymous with movies and that whole experience of films.
Sure.
The smell.
The
The
smell.
smell,
Yeah.
yes, the
For
smell,
That
sure.
movie theater
Yeah.
lobby smell, that popcorn smell, you know?
smell of popcorn and dried soda on the carpet.
right. Exactly.
Hell yeah. Well, Josephina, Brad, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we've loved hearing about the Transylvania tapes and the making of it. Where can people find you on social media or find more information about the Transylvania tapes?
Well, the
Facebook, Instagram, Nightfall
Facebook.
Pics.
Yeah, Nightfall Pics.
And we have our site there, and it's
yeah.
easy to connect
Yeah,
with us.
Instagram and Facebook are the two that we do the most. So yeah, you can always like we pretty much put all the updates about the movie on those two. Anytime there's like a new festival, like we've got a upcoming screening in the UK.
That's our premiere.
Our world premiere at Horror on Sea. I think it's June 6th. It's going to play there, and then it's got a few others that are coming up, you know, after that. Whenever we have these things, whenever we have press, anything like that, we'll put it on there. So that's where people can find all the updates for this movie and for other things too that we're doing, you know. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, love that. Well, yeah, thank you again for taking the time to chat with us. We really
Sure.
appreciate it.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for having us.
It's been a pleasure.